Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to Pitch Talk.
We are fans of football dropping vlogs, videos and podcasts on the beautiful game.
Check out our videos on YouTube and Instagram's IGTV,
including special feature segments, vlogs such as
5 minutes with the G,
the Straight Shootin View,
coaching with JBK,
audio on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts,
Podomatic, Spotify and other podcast platforms.
Join the Pitch Talk revolution on social media, Twitter, Instagram.
We have a group and fan page on Facebook.
The pitch is where we eat.
The pitch is where we sleep.
And the pitch is where we talk.
I can see you now. I can see you now and then.
Welcome to
the Straight Shootin View.
Hey, what's up, people? My name is Straight Shootin LJA, and welcome to the Straight Shootin View. Brian Giggs, Wilfried Zaha, Michail Antonio being the most recent, Danny Welbeck. The reason why I'm putting all these names together at once is not because most of them have played for Man United, but is because they've changed allegiance in terms of countries. Throw Diego Costa in there too. But my thing with choosing countries and this whole national allegiance rules and all that sort of stuff, FIFA's residency rules to me are an absolute circus, an absolute joke. Cast your mind back a few years ago when it was being mentioned, whilst Mikel Arteta was still playing, him and Manuel Almunia, because they hadn't represented Spain at all, it was one of them ones they could have been eligible to play for England. And when I heard that at the time, I was like, okay, no, that's just absurd. Don't let that happen. And it made me think about and made me read up about the FIFA residency rules. Now, these rules, as said, are an absolute circus. Because then a few years later, whilst Roy Hodgson was manager of England were openly trying to call Adnan Januzaj. And he had the choice between I think Belgium, Kosovo, England, and about 9 other goddamn countries. You see where I'm going with this, don't you? But the fact is, as I said, the residency rules are an absolute shambles. I mean, you look at examples like a Ryan Giggs, who represented England basically at every level, and then Diego Costa did the same thing, for Brazil. It's like, how can you, I just look at it as, how can you represent a country at every level? And even in Diego Costa's case, Costa's was actually worse because he actually represented, he actually represented Brazil at full international level, but it was in a friendly. And there's another loophole within FIFA's rules, because you can represent a country at every single level, but you basically are not tied to a country until you make a full appearance for them at full international level. So you can, as I said, with Diego Costa, he represented Brazil at full international level, but it was only in a friendly. So these rules are just an absolute circus. And then you start getting cases like that. Then, as I said, with the residency rules, you also, and the lineage rules as well and all that, then you start getting cases like Eduardo de Silva. A clear Brazilian by name, look, languages that he speaks, clear Brazilian. But, in my view, he wasn't good enough for Brazil, nowhere near good enough. So, what does he do? I think he had a Croatian grandparent, so he decided to play for them. So that's how you end up getting Eduardo de Silva being able to play for Croatia, which to me is just utterly absurd. But some of these are grounded in a bit more reality. So, there's a reason. Obviously, I talked about Wilfried Zaha and Michail Antonio as well. Michail Antonio is an interesting one, and I think he's done the right thing choosing Jamaica over England. By the way, screw the Daily Mail. The Daily Mail can do one, you idiots. Because at the end of the day, Michail Antonio did not snub England. He chose Jamaica. So clearly he feels a lot more affinity towards the Jamaican national team than the English one. Remember Daily Mail, aka Daily Fail, you don't have to be anti something to be pro something else. Always remember that. Absolute cretins. It was just shambolic seeing the headlines from the Daily Mail talking about, oh, Michail Antonio snubbed England. No, actually, England have basically snubbed him. Because Michail Antonio's 30 years old and has only started really being kind of touted as in terms of getting a potential England call-up at 30 years old. In my view, if someone's overlooked you for that long in your footballing career, it's not worth playing for them, because clearly they don't want you. And if they want you at 30, you know that it's only a short-term deal, and it's probably just to fill a gap. So it's one of them ones. And even so, with international sides, I always look at it as you should be looking to the future, not trying to get someone who may only give you like a year, maybe 2 at most. So yeah, that whole thing, the Daily Mail just rubbed me the wrong way with that. But I remember Danny Welbeck when he chose Ghana, and funnily enough, myself, the G-Man and Jesse Fizzle, right after Danny Welbeck decided to play for England instead of Ghana, guess what happened? A friendly at Wembley. I think this was back in 2011. Where I think it was Andy Carroll who actually got the winning goal. But the Ghana fans, the little pocket of them in the corner, every time Welbeck got the ball, boo! And fair play. Because I think it was literally within, I think it was like a week earlier, maybe more, maybe slightly more, maybe slightly less, that he'd made that decision. So his timing was fantastic. Kind of like Fernando Torres going to Chelsea and basically saying in his first interview, oh, I'm at a big club now where I can win trophies. Forgetting conveniently that a few days later, Liverpool were coming to Stamford Bridge. And then Daniel Agger gave him the forearm shiver in the face for all of us coppers. Shout outs to Daniel Agger. But yeah, I said, these rules where you can have a grandparent from a country and be like, oh yeah, I want to play for that one. The fact that you can be eligible for more than 3 countries is just absurd. I personally think the country you're born in is the country you should represent, personally. But the only loophole to that I would have would be, all right, if you were born in one country, but before the age of 10, you move to another country, then okay, I could let that slide. Because if you're 10 or under and you move from one country to another, the previous country you were in, you won't have any affinity for by the time you're 15. By the time you're 15, 16, because your formative years will have been spent in the country you moved to, your adopted nation. So that would be where I'd go with that. So it'd be one of them ones where you'd be eligible for 2 countries, the country of your birth and your adopted nation if you moved before the age of 10 years old. That would be where I'd go with it, because then that will stop this stupidness of, as said, with England trying to get Adnan Januzaj and him having eligibility for like 12 countries. It stops that kind of absurdity. And it's like, right, you got one of these countries to pick from. And I think in his case, it would have been Kosovo or Belgium. Pick one. Like, pick one, live with your decision. Because at the end of the day, as I said, I don't like this thing where you can represent an international nation at every single level, even at full international, but as long as it's a friendly, you've still got an escape clause and you can still switch countries. No. Because at international level, you want to be planning for the future. You want to be planning for the future of that nation, if you're the manager, if you're the football association. So you don't want to be worrying about, is your, say, main star or whatever going to jump ship to another country. I've never been comfortable with that. But as I said, it's a case of, yeah, Michail Antonio, I'm glad he's chosen Jamaica. I said, the fact that he's been overlooked for so long by England, I said, dude's 30 years old. So it's one of them where it's like, they've overlooked you for that long, they clearly don't really want you. You're having a hot couple of seasons, you know what, play for the country that means most to you. In his case, with the current rules as they are, not my suggested rules. It's one of them was play for the country you have the most affinity towards. If that's Jamaica, so be it. And I said, I'm glad he's picked Jamaica, because Jamaica could actually end up having quite a decent side if all goes to plan for them. So it's one of them where it's like shout outs to Michail Antonio for his decision, and Wilfried Zaha as well, picking the Ivory Coast over England. Because at the end of the day, that's a very interesting decision, because I swear Wilfried Zaha is basically from South London. So it's one of them where it's like, that's a big decision to pick the Ivory Coast instead of England. And I think he'd get into the England team. So for him, it was one of them ones you could clearly, for me, I reckon it's one of them ones where he's thought, nah, I don't really like the way like the England players are treated. It may have been that. It may have been certain cases where he's been overlooked and he's been snubbed. So he thinks, all right, let me go for the Ivory Coast, because I feel an affinity for that nation. And maybe Didier Drogba's his hero. If Didier Drogba is Wilfried Zaha's hero, that makes all the sense in the world why he'd want to pick the Ivory Coast over England. So it's one of them where it's like, and AFCON is not some little 2-bit jabroni tournament either. Similar to the Copa America. These are not little 2-bit jabroni bloody tournaments. These are major tournaments on the world stage. And especially with the African nations, they've been doing better at World Cups over the past decade and a half. Just about decade and a half plus, I'd say. But it's one of them ones where it's like him picking the Ivory Coast, fair play to him. Absolutely fair play to him. So, as said, I think FIFA's residency rules are an absolute joke. I don't think you should be able to have your pick of like 12 countries at once. As said earlier, I think it should be 2 at the most. The country you're born in, and if you moved before the age of 10, have that as your loophole as well. And if you didn't move before the age of 10, apart from that, the furthest you go up is your parents. So, like I said earlier, it's a case of, if you're eligible for more than 3 countries, it's absurd. I think, as I said, it should be 3 countries maximum. Because your parents can obviously be one from this country, one from another country, and then you were born in one country. Yeah, that's as far as it should go for me. Not grandparents, not great-grandparents on your mother's left-hand side, where her left pinky finger hangs out a little more than her right one. No. None of that stuff, none of that. Let's keep this simple. Keep it rational. But you know what, yeah? There is also actually a topic of nationalisation as well, where I've just in terms of a potential loophole, because you look at the French national team and situations that they've had with nationalisation, where players are taken from North Africa, so such as Algeria, Zaire, Morocco, Algeria. So it's one of them ones where it's like, the loophole that I would the loophole that I would close in terms of my moving before the age of 10, I would say a voluntary move. Because and we know it happens with the African nations, where a lot of them get their players basically stolen by the bigger nations, such as France especially, where they'll see a talented player, and when he reaches, like, say, 7, 8, 9, it'd be one of them ones, they'll move him, they'll pay their parents off a few grand and then move them over to France, nationalize them basically, and then it's like, yeah, you can play for France. So it's one of them ones. I don't agree with that philosophy and that method at all. So I would close that loophole straight away as well. If you were moved in that particular way, and there's ways of tracking that, definitely ways of tracking that. If you move in that particular way, then no, you're not eligible for that country that you've moved to, because that's cheating the system. That's cheating the system's literally cheating. Nah, I don't think that's It's not kosher to me. But let me know your views. I want to know, do you think FIFA's residency rules and nationality rules, are they a circus? I think they are, personally. But let me know what you think. Comment section is where? It's down there, down below. Comment section. Let me know your views. YouTube.com/Pitch Talk. Check out all of our videos, including 5 Minutes with the G, Coaching with JBK, and yours truly on the Straight Shootin View, and our special feature videos as well. Also, we are on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean. We're also on Player FM, Podomatic as well. Check our audio out as well. Also, twitter.com/Pitch Talk, or @Pitch Talk on Twitter, @Pitch Talk on Instagram as well. Tweet us, follow us, see what we're up to. Have a look at our previews to our vlogs on Instagram as well, on full episodes of the Straight Shootin View top picks as well. Also, remember, facebook.com/Pitch Talk. Become a fan, become a friend, become a member of the group. Join the footballing revolution we are working so hard to create as well. Bloody hell, man. I said FIFA's residency and nationality rules. Should you be able to change basically as late as you want, really, as long as you ain't played a full international, a full competitive international? Should you be able to change? I don't think so, but let me know your views. I have been Straight Shootin LJA, and until next time, I will see you later. Take it easy, peeps. Thanks for your time. Join the Pitch Talk revolution on social media, dropping vlogs, videos, and podcasts on the beautiful game.